With this ring, I thee wed.
With this ring,
I thee wed.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We hope this story brings you warmth, emotion, and a little reminder of how beautiful true love can be. Today's story follows the heartfelt wedding journey of Tieu Lac and the CEO, a love story shaped by misunderstandings, separation, and countless emotional trials. After walking through pain and doubt, they finally reached the day they both dreamed of. In a ceremony filled with light and sincere emotions, Tieu Lac walks down the aisle toward the man who has learned to love her with humility and devotion. They exchange rings as a symbol of forgiveness, trust, and commitment, sealing their bond with a gentle, meaningful kiss. The CEO then speaks from his heart, thanking Tieu Lac for choosing him as her husband and promising to love, protect, and care for her for the rest of his life. It is not just a wedding, it is the beginning of a lifelong journey built on understanding, gratitude, and unwavering love. If you enjoyed this emotional love story and want to see more heartfelt stories about family, romance, and meaningful life moments, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that touch the heart. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. The long-awaited wedding day of Tieu Lac and the CEO finally arrived, unfolding like a beautiful dream bathed in soft sunlight and warm emotions. The venue was decorated with countless white and pastel flowers, their gentle fragrance floating in the air, blending perfectly with the quiet excitement of the guests, who had gathered to witness a love story that had overcome so many storms. Every detail, from the elegant aisle to the delicate ribbons tied around each chair, reflected the care and devotion that had been poured into this special day. It was not just a wedding, it was the celebration of two souls who had chosen each other after walking through hardship hand in hand. As the music slowly began, a hush fell over the crowd. At the end of the aisle, Tieu Lac appeared, wearing a pure white wedding dress that shimmered softly under the light. The gown flowed gently with each step she took, as if echoing the calm strength and grace she had built through years of perseverance and love. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her bouquet, not from fear, but from overwhelming happiness. With every breath she took, memories of the past flooded her mind. The misunderstandings, the painful separations, the nights of silent tears, and the moments when she almost gave up believing in love. Yet here she was, standing strong, walking toward the man she had chosen to trust with her entire life. At the other end of the aisle, the CEO stood waiting, his posture steady, his eyes filled with deep emotion. In that moment, the world around him seemed to fade away. He could no longer hear the soft whispers of the guests or the gentle music playing in the background. All he could see was Tieu Lac slowly approaching him, more beautiful than he had ever imagined. His heart pounded with a mix of excitement, gratitude, and quiet awe. He knew better than anyone how much she had endured, how many times she had been hurt because of him, and how bravely she had stayed when walking away would have been easier. As Tieu Lac drew closer, their eyes met, and time seemed to slow. In that single exchange of glances, there were no words, yet countless emotions were shared. There was forgiveness for past mistakes, appreciation for unwavering loyalty, and an unspoken promise to never let go again. The CEO felt his throat tighten as memories rushed through his mind. The day they first met, the moments of misunderstanding that had driven them apart, and the painful realization that life without her felt empty and meaningless. Seeing her now, walking toward him with such trust and love, filled his heart with a sense of purpose he had never known before. The guests watched in silence, many of them visibly moved by the sincerity of the moment. Some smiled warmly, while others discreetly wiped away tears. They all knew that this wedding was not the result of convenience or fleeting passion. It was the outcome of resilience, patience, and a love that had been tested repeatedly, yet never truly broken. The sunlight streamed through the venue, casting a soft glow around the couple, as if blessing their union and marking this day as the beginning of a new chapter. When Tieu Lac finally reached the altar, the CEO took a small step forward, his hands instinctively reaching out to hers. The warmth of her fingers against his reminded him that this moment was real, that after all the struggles, they had arrived together. The wedding officiant began to speak, but for them, the world had narrowed down to just the two of them standing face to face. Their hearts beat in quiet harmony, filled with hope, gratitude, and a deep, unwavering belief that from this day onward, no matter what life brought, they would face it together. As the officiant gently invited them to exchange their vows and rings, the atmosphere grew even more intimate and sacred. The soft music faded into the background, leaving behind a silence filled with anticipation and emotion. The CEO slowly turned toward Tieu Lac, his hands trembling ever so slightly as he reached for the ring that symbolized a promise he had carried in his heart long before this day arrived. Taking a deep breath, he lifted her hand, holding it with a tenderness that spoke louder than any words. The ring gleamed under the light as he carefully slipped it onto her finger. In that simple yet profound gesture, he poured all his devotion, regret, and hope for the future. His voice was steady, yet filled with emotion as he promised to stand by her side through every joy and every hardship, to protect her when the world felt overwhelming, and to love her with honesty and patience for the rest of his life. Tieu Lac listened, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, feeling the weight and beauty of his words settle deep within her heart. When it was her turn, Tieu Lac held the ring meant for him, her fingers brushing lightly against his palm. She paused for a moment, allowing herself to take in his familiar face, the man who had once been distant and guarded, now standing before her with nothing but openness and vulnerability. With a soft smile, she slipped the ring onto his finger, her voice gentle yet firm as she vowed to walk beside him no matter what storms might come, to trust him again even when fear tried to creep in, and to love him not only in moments of happiness, but also in times of uncertainty and pain. The exchange of rings felt like a quiet miracle. Two imperfect people, shaped by their pasts, were choosing to bind their futures together. The rings themselves were simple yet elegant, reflecting the kind of love they had built, one not defined by extravagance, but by endurance, understanding, and sincere commitment. As their hands remained entwined, the guests could sense the depth of the bond between them, a bond forged not in ease, but in resilience. The officiant smiled warmly and declared them husband and wife. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. Then, with a soft, almost shy smile, the CEO leaned forward, his hand gently cupped Tieu Lac's face, his thumb brushing away a tear that had finally escaped her eye. Their foreheads touched briefly, as if they needed one last moment to breathe in the reality of what had just happened. And then, slowly and tenderly, he kissed her. It was not a dramatic kiss meant to impress the crowd. It was soft, sincere, and filled with quiet emotion, a kiss that carried the weight of everything they had endured together. In that kiss lived the pain of the past, the forgiveness they had chosen, and the hope they now shared. The guests erupted into applause, cheers filling the air as petals drifted down around them. Yet for Tieu Lac and the CEO, the sounds faded away. All that mattered was the warmth of each other's presence and the certainty that they had finally found their way home. When they pulled back, their smiles were radiant and unguarded. The CEO rested his forehead against hers once more, whispering words meant only for her, words of gratitude and love that made her heart flutter. Tieu Lac laughed softly through her tears, nodding as if to reassure him that she was here, that she was staying, that this time nothing would pull them apart. Hand in hand, they turned to face the guests, no longer just two individuals, but a united pair ready to begin a new chapter. The applause grew louder, echoing the joy and blessings of everyone present. In that moment, surrounded by love and light, Tieu Lac and the CEO knew that the rings on their fingers were more than symbols. They were reminders of a promise made from the heart, a promise to cherish, to forgive, and to walk forward together, now and forever. As the applause slowly faded and the guests settled into a warm, expectant silence, the CEO gently tightened his grip on Tieu Lac's hand. His expression shifted from joyful excitement to something deeper, sincere, reflective, and filled with emotion. He took a quiet breath, as if steadying himself, then turned fully toward his bride. In that moment, the confident executive admired by so many was no longer a powerful CEO standing under the spotlight, but simply a man speaking from his heart to the woman he loved. With a soft, steady voice, he began by thanking Tieu Lac for choosing him, for believing in him even when he had failed to believe in himself. He confessed that he had never imagined she would agree to marry him after all the misunderstandings, the emotional distance, and the pain he had caused. Her decision to stand beside him today, dressed in white and glowing with trust, was something he considered the greatest honor of his life. As he spoke, his eyes glistened, and his words carried a vulnerability that moved everyone listening. He told her that loving her had changed him in ways he never expected. Before meeting her, his life had been filled with ambition, responsibility, and endless pressure, yet strangely empty. Success had taught him how to lead companies and make difficult decisions, but it had not taught him how to love, how to listen, or how to protect another terrier heart as carefully as his own. Tieu Lac, he said, had taught him patience, humility, and the courage to admit his mistakes. Because of her, he had learned that true strength was not found in control, but in devotion and understanding. The CEO then made a promise, not as a public performance, but as a lifelong vow spoken from the depths of his soul. He promised to care for her every day, not only when life was easy, but especially when it was hard. He vowed to be her shelter in times of sorrow, her partner in moments of uncertainty, and her greatest supporter in all her dreams. He promised to protect her smile, to wipe away her tears, and to never again let silence or pride come between them. No matter how busy life became, no matter how heavy responsibility felt, he vowed that she would always come first. Tieu Lac listened quietly, tears flowing freely down her cheeks. She did not interrupt him, nor did she look away. Instead, she held his hand tighter, as if grounding him, as if silently telling him that his words had reached her heart. In that moment, she felt the sincerity behind every promise, and she knew that the man standing before her was not the same one she had once struggled to understand. He had grown, just as she had, and their love had matured into something steady and real. He concluded by thanking her once more for her forgiveness, for her resilience, and for her unwavering love. He thanked her for choosing to walk into an uncertain future with him, trusting that together they could face anything. His voice softened as he told her that from this day forward, she would never walk alone. Every step she took, every challenge she faced, he would be there, beside her, behind her, and always on her side. The guests were deeply moved, many of them wiping away tears as the emotion of the moment washed over the room. Even those who had always seen the CEO as distant or untouchable now witnessed his most human side. When he finished speaking, the silence that followed was heavy with meaning, filled with admiration and quiet respect. Tieu Lac finally lifted her gaze, her eyes shining with love and certainty. She did not need many words. With a gentle nod and a soft smile, she leaned her forehead against his, letting her tears fall freely. Her response was simple, yet powerful, a silent acceptance of every promise he had made. The officiant smiled, the guests applauded once more, and the couple stood together, hands intertwined, hearts aligned. As they walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, sunlight wrapped around them like a blessing. In that moment, they knew that their story did not end at the wedding, it was only beginning. A lifetime of shared mornings, quiet evenings, challenges, laughter, and love awaited them. And with gratitude in their hearts and promises sealed by devotion, Tieu Lac and the CEO stepped forward into their forever together.
Hello, xin chào tất cả mọi người, xin chào khán giả của kênh Lý Tiểu Lạc Review. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Nội dung câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã rất hay, rất thú vị và hấp dẫn. Đã kể về việc ngoài đời thực, Tiểu Lạc và vị CEO trẻ đã kết hôn với nhau. Đó là một đám cưới vô cùng hạnh phúc và mãn nguyện với sự chúc phúc của đông đảo bạn bè cũng như người thân của CEO và của Tiểu Lạc. Tiểu Lạc thì vô cùng hạnh phúc vì giờ đây cô đã chính thức là vợ của CEO trẻ. Cô đã có một người che chở và bảo vệ cô suốt cuộc đời này. Còn vị CEO trẻ thì cũng rất là hạnh phúc vì anh đã lấy được Tiểu Lạc, người con gái mà anh yêu thương bấy lâu nay. Cuộc sống của Tiểu Lạc và CEO sau hôn nhân sẽ như thế nào? Mọi câu chuyện sẽ còn được kể ở các tập tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút subscribe để đăng ký kênh, sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tiểu Lạc Review nha. Nếu các bạn thấy câu chuyện hôm nay hay, hấp dẫn và mới lạ, đừng quên bấm vào nút subscribe để đăng ký kênh, sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các câu chuyện được phát sóng trên kênh Lý Tiểu Lạc Review. Nếu các bạn thấy câu chuyện hôm nay hay, hấp dẫn, mới lạ, hãy cho mình xin nút like, share và để lại bình luận ở dưới video nhé. Mọi ý kiến đóng góp của các bạn sẽ giúp mình cải thiện nội dung trên kênh hay hơn nữa để phục vụ khán giả. CEO and Tiểu Lạc, thank you so much. Please continue support their channel Lý Tiểu Lạc Review. Bye bye and see you soon everyone.